Hello and welcome to Take This TV, the television book club podcast, where every week we watch an episode or two of our favorite shows and we talk about them with our friends in the fandom. Guess who that is? It's you. Oh my gosh. I'm joined by the wonderful Kimberly Woods.
Hey, hot potatoes.
And this season we're talking about Shogun.
And we're on episode 2 of Shogun today. And it's called Servants of Two Masters. So if you have not watched episode 2, be sure to watch that and then join us because spoilers lie ahead. So the episode description is Blackthorn's arrival in Osaka stirs up a hornet's nest of rivalries. Mariko is trapped between her cause and her faith when she must translate for the barbarian in Lord Torunaga's custody.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this is the first time that we actually get to see the opening of the show. Carmen, what did you think about that? That was so cool.
It was cool. I love that a lot of shows are doing these like stylized opens now.
It was beautiful. I love the Japanese Zen gardens and the sand and the ships going through the sand.
Yes, I love everything about this show. The style, like, it's so cool and like it really immerses you in the culture, which feels like really fresh and new, and I'm excited to watch more.
It was so cool. I love the samurai armor that busts through at the end of the stylistic opening. It's really, really cool.
Heck yeah. Did you watch the sub or the dub?
I watched the sub. Did you watch the sub or the dub?
No, I was going to switch to the sub, and then I was like, it would be kind of cool if you did the sub and I did the dub for the show.
I'm curious.
So the one thing I noticed, because we were talking about differences last time, is in the English dub, because I had like watched the intro on the sub, and then I switched over to the dub, so I saw them both. The English dub, and when it like lists out the content warnings, it lists sexual situations. It didn't list that on the sub version. Did you see that?
No, I didn't pay attention to the warnings.
Oh yeah, I thought that was funny. It was like, watch out, there are sexual situations. And the whole episode, I'm like waiting for something like really spicy to happen.
For this episode?
Like, oh, yeah. And it's not. And so I was waiting for some like pearl clutching.
Yeah.
No.
I don't remember that. That's really funny.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I thought that was silly, but
so this episode we start out with the former Taiko on his deathbed 1 year ago. And we find out just how much he favors Torunaga, which is really cool because he invites him to have a private audience with him. He seems to be testing him in a way when he basically offers him all of the power in order to take care of his son. And as we know, our Ned Stark of the show declines that offer. And we see that the Taiko has drawn up the current state of the regents, this Council of Regents that will, keep everybody's power in check. But it does seem like possibly if Torunaga had a solution, the Taiko would have honored it because he seems to respect him. It seems like he's like hoping, like he probably knows that there's not another solution, but if our wise Torunaga had one, he would have maybe accepted it.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of get the sense that they are really close friends outside of their roles in the country. And in the English version, there was a line where Lord Torunaga was like, "Yeah, we've shat in the same pot so many times." It was that was it. Yeah, same line.
That's how it was translated too.
Okay, cool. I thought it was kind of funny because I was like, I wonder if that's just the dub translation or that's actually what the line is. But yeah, so they seem really close. And I was like actually really surprised that the Taiko was testing Torunaga in that way. But I mean, it also shows us just the type of honorable man that Lord Torunaga is.
We also get that comment where the Taiko's basically saying like, yeah, you could have had a woman like her.
Ochiba, yeah.
talking about his concubine, I think, because he seems to have a wife and a concubine, right? Because
there's the older,
Taiko, the Taiko.
Oh.
I also don't know. I mean, possibly Torunaga too, because we do get a later scene where he seems to be, there's the older woman, and then there's like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like that's also, a part of this society where it's commonplace.
It did seem that way.
He says something like, you could have had a beautiful woman like her, and then Torunaga's like, I never cared for beautiful women. So I feel like they're just showing his honor and the fact that he's not a superficial guy. He's not going to be fooled by a facade. He's very much about honor and truth and what's underneath.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting line, and I was like, what does that mean? And maybe he's just he feels like part of his duty to his country is to have heirs, and so maybe that's why he has spouses or whatever. But I thought it was interesting, and I'm excited to learn more about Lord Torunaga and his personal belief in life. But I did think it was interesting that when everyone is asked to leave and Torunaga stays, Ochiba is also asked to leave, the Taiko's wife. And there's that sort of glance between her and Torunaga before the doors close.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is there a rivalry there? Is she upset that Torunaga is able to stay and she isn't? What did you read of that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's a little bit jealous of their closeness. Maybe it's just showing us just how much in the Taiko's favor Torunaga is, that, because he's on his deathbed. He seems like he could die at any moment.
That's true.
She might be like, why are you getting this, Vinda?
That's a good point.
But Carmen, remind me, was that the concubine or was that the wife?
I wrote down that it was his wife, but okay. I don't know. So it could have been his concubine.
And it also seems like they were trying to convert him still on his deathbed to Christianity, and he hadn't converted yet because the younger woman, I don't know her name, was making some sort of comment about that and how.
Because the priest is like, we have to get him to swear allegiance to Jesus or whatever.
Yeah. And she's like, that's not happening, basically. Oh, and then at the end, we also get the Taiko telling Lord Torunaga to make sure that his son knows that the man who stands at the greatest height is the loneliest in the world.
It's lonely at the top. Yeah.
Is that what it said in the English?
It is, yeah.
Let's go.
And so the Taiko's son, the heir, is it Yachio?
Mm-hmm. Yachio.
He's supposed to, Torunaga and the Council of Regents are supposed to rule until Yachio turns 16, and then he can take over. And I don't know how old he is in the present day when we see him, but he still looks like a kid.
He's pretty young.
Yeah. So I don't think they're going to make it.
That was a year ago. He's still a baby.
He's still a little guy. So it doesn't seem like that was ever really in the cards.
No. But anyway, I loved this opening. I love that we're finally getting to see this is why everybody is probably scared of Lord Torunaga. They probably know that the former, Taiko trusted him and had this sort of relationship with him, and so he's the one to look out for. That's why they're all trying to team up and get him out.
Yeah, the scheming. So much scheming is happening.
So much scheming.
I was in a past season, I was like, oh, I don't like when there's non-sequential storytelling because people perceive time linearly anyway, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I actually really like that we learn things sort of at the right time in this show. I feel like if the scene with the Taiko happened in episode 1, it probably wouldn't have been as impactful as having it now instead. So, yeah, I really like the storytelling and the writing for this show. I think that it's really engaging, and you're always sort of locked on every word that everyone's saying because you're like, oh, this could be important.
Mm-hmm. I love it too. I I also thought it was interesting that later we find out that Lord Torunaga is part of the Minowara clan.
Oh, yeah.
Too, which is another reason why the other regents seem to fear him, because just his name alone seems to have some tie to the imperial family. He has like royal lineage, so he's destined potentially to be the next shogun.
Yes. So I think his family were the essentially ruling shogunate over the last 100 years ago or something like that. And so, yeah, everybody kind of knows that if there was going to be a new shogun, he's probably the front runner for it.
Yeah.
Which makes the other people on the Council of Regents sort of even more motivated. I feel like.
Yeah.
Ishido is like just jealous. Ishido is like one of those characters where I want to say he's like Bakugo or any of those other like Lancer characters, because I feel like he's more of the bully character. Mm-hmm. But I was hoping that we would get a chance to like see more of him, the villain at rest, and like learn more about him. But I feel like every time we see him, he's scheming against Torunaga.
Yeah. I'm hoping, maybe in the next episode we'll learn a little bit more about his motives.
Yes. We also get to see some of the Portuguese leaders as well. We meet Martin, who is he introduces himself as a member of the Society of Jesus, but he is he's a priest and part of the Portuguese missionaries. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, Catholic missionaries. Yeah, and he seems to have a relationship, or at least he's very familiar with Mariko.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so was it just me? When he was, what did he say? I wrote this down so I don't forget. He calls Mariko Maria.
Oh,
and I wrote down you.
I was like, I guess that's her Christian name that they've given her now that she's converted.
Has that ever happened to you? When I was a kid, I remember when I was a kid, I went to a Catholic school, and they were telling me that I needed to have a Christian name because my name's kind of foreign, and they were like, you should change your name to essentially be something that's easier for native English speakers to say. And I was like, what? No. And even like some of my other friends and family members, like they have the Nigerian names and they have their like American names. And so it definitely felt like one of those like assimilation kind of things. And I was just like, ew.
It's like, uh-oh.
Colonization.
Yeah. That's like,
yeah.
Yeah. That was in the first meeting between Torunaga and Blackthorn that we get that sort of exchange between Mariko and Martin.
Yeah. And I thought that it was like he was honest in his translations.
He was.
So he was an honorable person.
I love in that scene what they do with the editing. Because at first we get him translating between Torunaga and Blackthorn. But as the conversation continues, Martin gets kind of phased out, and then it's just cutting straight between Blackthorn and Torunaga. And it's like, okay, they're seeing eye to eye. They're having this like connection and being able to communicate. Like, honestly, it seems like they're like recognizing something within each other, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it builds the tension so well. The cinematography and the editing are so great throughout the whole show.
It's so good. It's so good. And it seems like during this first exchange, too, this is where Torunaga is getting this idea that maybe he can use Blackthorn to drive a wedge between the regents, those who were Catholic and those who were not. So I like that we're kind of seeing this.
Oh. Yes.
And at the end of that exchange, we get Torunaga testing Blackthorn in a way because he says, what if I was an enemy to you? Because basically, Blackthorn has said that the Portuguese are his enemy, and that's why he doesn't trust Martin. So Torunaga says, what if I was an enemy to you? And then Blackthorn is basically just like, then I would commend my soul to God, for surely, I would die against a techie like you.
Never so missing a beat.
Oh,
that silver tongue.
That is so good.
Blackthorn, that silver tongue, yeah.
I love that so much. Just the arc of that scene is like so good.
Yeah. Every conversation does feel like it has an arc. And I feel like, you know, some of the best episodes of these types of shows with a lot of political intrigue and relationships and rivalries, the writing and the conversations are really like battles. And I think that like all of them have a sort of a 3-act structure. And this scene was definitely one of the better ones that I've ever seen. I loved it.
It seems like Blackthorn recognizes Lord Torunaga's honor or something. Like the fact that he can actually talk to him and he feels like he's being heard. Versus, you know, when we first saw him with translators and people he was trying to communicate with.
It was not going well.
No.
And I mean, we even see that in the end of last episode, just like on his face when he sort of sees Torunaga for the first time. You can see until he's really moved by it.
Yeah.
But their exchange is interrupted by Ishido when he bursts in. So disrespectful. Just bursts in the room. And Martine tells Blackthorn that, like, you know, if you want to live, don't say anything. As we learned from episode 1, if you talk out of turn, you could lose your life.
Yep. And also your whole family's lives.
Your whole family. Everybody's getting murdered.
Yeah, so better think long and hard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ishido interrupts, basically is like, what's going on here? What's this barbarian doing? This is going to cause trouble. And then basically Torunaga sends Blackthorn to jail for his protection, basically.
Torunaga is so smooth because he's like, oh, it doesn't bother me. I'll send him to jail.
So good. He is, in this episode in particular, it's like, he is such, like, we're learning how great of a chess player he is. Like, you know, like, the fact that he can see the whole map, it just feels like he's, like, playing everybody.
Yeah. He's always
so many
ahead.
steps ahead. Like, so not even just one step.
Yeah, he's a master. And I mean, we sort of are like left in the dark for most of the episode, because this episode we get insight into Torunaga's plan that was first alluded to in episode 1. But even like we're sort of learning with the rest of the characters, and Torunaga is kind of like this unknowable character who's always, like you said, multiple steps ahead, which I really love. And like it builds the mystique around him. And we kind of see why he's revered amongst people that are in his inner circle.
Yeah, and again, why he should be feared by the rest of the regions.
Oh, we also meet Mariko's husband, who I wrote jealous and rude.
I was cruel.
Yeah, because he comes in and Mariko's laughing with her son, and her husband is like, well, you got him laughing like he's one of the women at court or something like that.
Yeah, like he's one of the girls.
Yeah, I was like, what, you can't laugh? Like, that's dishonorable to laugh? Damn. So,
and he basically tells her that she just needs to stay in the house.
He does say that, yeah. And he is like, I love that he gets humbled when his dad, Hiramatsu, comes in. Hiramatsu is well, it seems to be Torunaga's right hand. And so he comes in and lets them know that Lord Torunaga has called another audience. And the husband gets ready to get up and he's like, oh, not you. I love that moment because it's just like, yeah, he's so jealous of Mariko and being called to work with Lord Torunaga. And I guess he feels like it should be him. And then his dad comes in and embarrasses him again, which makes like sweet justice.
Yeah. And he's like trying to pry information from his kid about what Mariko was doing in court.
Oh,
instead of like talking directly to Mariko and asking her, he's like, what, you know?
The disrespect.
It's just horrible. It's like, okay, clearly this was a political connection or something, you know, why she married this guy. It's not for him.
This is a political marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, we also get to see a lot of that with a lot of different characters of like we sort of talked about and learned in last episode. They said that a lot of people have multiple hearts. And so you see people are doing sort of like what they have to do to move through society and try to move through the social class that they move around in the social class that they're in. I also love that Hiramatsu is like sort of learning about Lord Torunaga's plan along with us and asking some of the questions that we would have, where Mariko explains that Torunaga is sort of using Blackthorn as a weapon against the other leaders of the Council of Regents. So the political games and everybody just like using people like pieces on a chessboard. It's I don't know what's gonna happen.
I'm here for it.
Me too.
And sure enough, as Lord Torunaga expected, it sows distrust in the regents, and some of the regents are calling for Blackthorn's death. What was that gasp, Carmen?
Oh no, because you said Blackthorn's death, and I was like,
But before they try to go round him up, he's in prison, and he learns of the secret base, which I think he suspected because it was already in his journals about Macau. But he learns that there's actually Ronin at this Portuguese base.
He does, from the priest. Well, also, I laughed out loud when the priest sort of gave him the rundown of all the players that are like the political players.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this feels like a video game where like you meet the first like NPC ally character and he's like, let me tell you about the players in this world. But I'm so happy that it's there.
As an audience member, though, I was like, oh yes, thank you.
Me too, because I was like, wait, let me get everybody's name. Who's that? What are they? So we learn about the leaders of the different families, the other count in the Council of Regents. So just to recap for everybody, so we're all on the same page. There's Sugiyama, who's a descendant of the richest family. There is Ono, who is a feared warrior, but Ono has leprosy, and because of his condition, it led him to join the church. I assume that this is a Catholic church, but I don't know, so I don't want to say one way or the other. There's Kayama, who is really greedy and ambitious, and they say that Kayama's faith is really just about his greed and ambition, so he's trying to manipulate the church in some kind of way. And then, of course,
getting money from the church.
Get that church money. Pass around that tithing pot and steal all the money. Yeah. And then there's, of course, Ishido, who is the caretaker of the castle, Torunaga's main rival, and all of the other members of the Council of Regents essentially follow him.
I love that.
Yes.
I loved our little lay of the land there with this character.
I was so happy. I was like, thank you. Because I was like, who's in the first episode? I'm like, what? That's his uncle, his brothers. What? Who's?
What are their names?
Yeah. That's everybody's name. Anyway, so we learn all that.
Yeah.
And then we get to see the other regents all meeting, having their little scheming dinner together, their little lunch. And you can tell that just like their relationship, you get the impression that they've always kind of been a little clique that's left Torunaga out. And then Ishido is trying to push for the vote to decide Torunaga's fate and essentially kill him. But because Torunaga schemes, the other regents are like, we have to execute the heretic. Blackthorn has to die. And so they want to delay the vote until after Blackthorn is executed, which was part of Torunaga's plan all along. So they're playing right into his hand.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Meanwhile, after that, we also get this meeting where Ishido goes and meets with Yabushige to try to figure out what Torunaga is up to, which I thought was super interesting.
Well, so Yabushige is one of Torunaga's samurai, and he's also the person first episode that we saw that boiled somebody alive. So now we know his name is Yabushige. So...
And he's not Mariko's husband, which we were maybe suspecting he might be.
I thought it was interesting during their conversation that Ishido is like, Torunaga is going to have to be executed, and you're going to die along with him. So it's like you kind of get the sense that like they have some kind of relationship, but Ishido is always trying to hold power over Yabushige. So It's not
and then
healthy.
Yabushige is like, hey, let me handle this. And he kind of gives insight a little bit into why, Torunaga wants the barbarian in the first place. And he's kind of like, let me take care of it. I'll go get the barbarian, and then you can have that, tool to use for your own devices.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that angle too, because he's like, I'm doing this for you. But ultimately, it still leads back to, Lord Torunaga getting Blackthorn back.
Well, so Yabushige, so I think Ishido's plan is like, you go and get Blackthorn under the ruse that you're doing it for Torunaga, and then I can be pulling the strings behind the scene. Mm-hmm. But I think that Yabushige is so bad at being discreet that I get the impression that Torunaga was on to him from the start.
That's what it seems like. That's what, like, it's like this chess pieces. It's like, it seems like Lord Torunaga was like, this is probably gonna happen.
Like, how does he know?
I can count on my guy to, like,
Yeah, I guess he knows his people so well. He knows that, like, if I do this and these people are gonna do that, and wow, so epic.
Yeah. Because when he does come back to him after the bandit attack, Lord Torunaga knows. He's like, oh, how convenient, you were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, he's like, you got a habit of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
so
I love
before Blackthorn is saved by Yabushige, when he's in the prison and he's talking to the priest tells him, don't use the information that I gave you because you can't win their game. And then Blackthorn's like, you don't know me. What? Like, you know who I am? And then I love that, like, when he's being taken away, the priest is like, confess your sins, my son. And he's like, no, I don't want to do it. And then immediately after that, we see him like, Lord, forgive me for my pride. Oh my God. He got religious real quick when he thought he was going to die.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much.
Yeah.
He is we see that in the next scene again. Like, once he gets saved and he goes back to Lord Torunaga, he shares all these secrets. He draws the map. He points out the Portuguese base in Macau and tells them about the Ronin, which they're all shocked to hear about because, supposedly this had something to do with the uprising against the Taiko. Mm-hmm. And possibly the Taiko's decline, like maybe he got injured in whatever uprising this was, and that led to his death. So this is like a huge reveal.
Yes, everybody is really surprised and taken by this. And Blackthorn is so clever because he brings it up in a way of like, oh, you didn't know? I thought you knew.
Yeah. And then he just lays it on them too, that like, oh, you didn't know your territory, it belongs to the Portuguese because, they have the Spanish and the Portuguese, they have this treaty that, any land, when yours falls to the Portuguese.
A new player enters the Game of Thrones. Yeah.
And they aim to replace all non-Christian leaders with leaders of their own.
So am I incorrect in thinking that, like, are they the Spanish Inquisition? Is that what's happening? The Portuguese? Or is
you
that
mean like the deal they made, the treaty that they made,
or
the Spanish
like
with the Portuguese?
The colonization efforts of the Spanish Inquisition to like spread their reach in history.
Is that part of that? I think it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it seemed that they had a deal with the Portuguese where the Portuguese gets Japan.
Dang. Yeah, they divided up the world.
Yeah.
And like, we get this half, you get that half of like any non-Catholic nations. Wow.
There's a big moment for Mariko here where her faith is being tested. Because she has to translate this fact that, Blackthorn is basically saying that the aim of all the Catholic Portuguese people that are here is to replace the leadership with Christian leaders of their own. And she says that's a lie to Blackthorn, mm-hmm. And she asks him to swear by his God that this is the truth, and he says it is, and then she actually does repeat it. So again, she, does her service to her, Lord Torunaga, and actually says what he said, despite her misgivings about it.
Yes. I also love that, like, we get the two scenes of Martine translating and Mariko translating, and like Martine essentially verbatim translating, and then Mariko just like summarizing. I'm like, he says thank you.
I love the end of the scene too, because once again they have this like nice arc in this section too, where Torunaga flat out asks Blackthorn, "What is it that you seek here?" And he says to vanquish our common enemies. And then basically Torunaga's like, "That's hopeless." And then Blackthorn's like, "Unless I win." There's his pride again. I love there's his pride coming back in. But then it's met with Torunaga. We see Torunaga smirk.
Mm-hmm.
So he likes this. And I'm like, this is
the kindred spirits.
So good. Yeah.
It's like, I'm outnumbered, but I'm the smartest one in the room.
Yep, the underdog's rising up.
Yes. I love that scene. It was really great. I also was like, okay, so just a quick aside about the shipping that we were talking about. So we talked about Mariko and Blackthorn, which I still think is going to happen. Marithorn. We talked about Marithorn. Because if you got hot people, they got to kiss. But did you pick up on like Martine having a crush or thing for Mariko?
It seemed like it.
Yeah, I felt like the vibes were there. And I was like, I'm not about it.
I wasn't about it. I didn't entertain that though. I don't think she was. I don't think she felt more. I don't think for her it was a romantic thing.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I feel like she has a it was more of a like, you helped me see my faith sort of respect for him.
Yeah.
But I didn't read it beyond like, I think for him it definitely was there, but for her it was purely like, I respect you for like, you know.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, Maria. And I'm like, bro, get out of here.
Ew.
No, thank you.
Big nope.
The devilish rogue Blackthorn is right around the corner.
Speaking of our Marithorn ship, one of my favorite like hot moments
hell yeah
is when she was like, "Call me Mariko-sama." When she corrects him. He just calls her Mariko and she's like, call me Mariko-sama. I loved it. I don't know. I just loved it. Because that's more of a sign of, hey, I'm above you. You got to respect me.
You got to put him in his place.
Yeah. I love that.
I think he was kind of here for it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. But we did not get to see him strip down for his bath this time around.
No cheeks. Yeah. Next time.
Next time. He was scared of the flux. For bathing too much.
Apparently, yeah.
My goodness.
So we end the episode with an assassination attempt. Oh my gosh. When the maid came in, no, she wasn't playing. Everybody was getting murked. She's like,
she was so badass.
She was killing everybody. And so at the end, Torunaga, everybody was like, oh, she was trying to kill you, Lord Torunaga. And he was like, no, because I swapped rooms with the Savage, and she was trying to kill him, essentially saying Blackthorn was the target. But I was like, no, I don't think so. I'm not falling for your games, Lord Torunaga, because when she's going through the castle and she's killing people, she keeps saying, where's Lord Torunaga? And then they don't answer. She kills them. And so I feel like she was sent there to assassinate Lord Torunaga, but he's using this as an opportunity to be like, oh, the Portuguese have come for Blackthorn because he told us the secrets.
I don't know, but it's interesting because he also switches rooms with... Torunaga has Blackthorn sleep in his own room.
Mm-hmm. Which I feel like is part of his scheme, because he knew that they would make a move against him, because he's like trying to turn people. Well, because he knew that Ishido essentially wanted him dead, and he knows that the other regents are super religious, and so they'd want him dead for his sacrilege. So maybe he was like, well, they're going to try to kill him, so maybe if I do this, then I can frame it to make it seem like it wasn't a target.
That's kind of how I saw it. Like he was seeing several steps ahead again. It was like, they're going to come in after him and let me sleep in his room and let me put this dummy here and let me be hiding in the... I don't know.
No, I love it.
I thought it was really good though.
I love it. I'm not on his level, so I'm just guessing.
Me neither. I'm just, This episode definitely set me up as being in awe of Lord Torunaga and his prowess.
Heck yeah, dude.
So good.
But I just gotta ask though, do you love it, Kimberly?
I do love it. And I love the title, Carmen. What did you think about the Servants of Two Masters theme for this episode?
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. I feel like it has multiple meanings, especially with Blackthorn, because we sort of get him. We learn about his devotion to wanting to get vengeance on the Portuguese, but we also know that he's like sort of being enamored by the Japanese culture as he's being exposed to it more. So,
yeah,
and he does sort of put himself out there to protect Torunaga. So, I mean, it could have been a political move, but I also feel like he was acting off instinct.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many people that this description fits. Like Yabushige is serving Torunaga, but also in some ways serving Ishido in this episode. Mariko serving her god, Torunaga, and, she has to deal with her husband.
Yeah, he sucks.
Kiyama's being torn by, money.
Gotta stack that bread.
So, but I'm definitely excited to see what happens next and learn more about all the different, leaders even more.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're at Take This TV on Instagram and TikTok. Leave us a review. Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.